Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, September 7th, 2018. And I wanted to just sum up the week that I've seen, and I'm going to sum it up in a word, and that's panic. The deep state, the mainstream media, the Democrats, call it what you will, everything from the Kavanaugh hearing and Senator Cory Booker releasing classified, or I should say confidential information, emails from Kavanaugh from 2000, from 9/11, 2001. Unbelievable, breaking the rules of the Senate. He could lose his Senate seat over. I don't know if he will or not, but really unbelievable. Just a panic move, and of course it's really not much there. A dud, a nothing burger, a poof. Passing gas in the wind is what it was. And then you have the absolute desperation of the New York Times putting out an op-ed with an anonymous source, from a White House anonymous source. Yeah, we're just supposed to believe them. This is some high-ranking source. I say BS on the BS. And then this person is saying he's going to resist and undermine and try to thwart anything the president does. That's sedition. That's treason. Matter of fact, that's what Donald Trump called it, treason. And he's demanding the New York Times reveal the source for their op-ed. Absolute Hail Mary panic move by the New York Times. You know, without fear or favor. Oh, get out of here. Listen, this is not an op-ed, folks. This is propaganda. This is what this is. Thought-shaping, mind-controlling propaganda to make you think Donald Trump is off the rails. We're back to this now. Donald Trump is off the rails. They even brought up the 25th Amendment that you could remove a sitting president if he wasn't fit for duty. We're back to this. They're making it up and they're recycling the stuff all over again and taking another run at it. And then you have, Woodward and Bernstein fame, Bob Woodward. He should be embarrassed and ashamed of himself. He's releasing quotes, from his book, his upcoming book. And here's already got 3 of his top quotes to people. Trump's former lawyer, who says, "I didn't say that." The Secretary of Defense Mattis, I didn't say that. You have John Kelly, the chief of staff. I didn't call him an idiot. Woodward looks awful stupid here. He better get his source to reveal themselves, because he's got 3 top sources that say, hey, they made that up. I mean, you talk about desperation. Of course, Woodward is of Watergate fame, the squirt gun fight. It wasn't a national security issue and no money changed hands. And that is not what happened here with the exoneration of Hillary Clinton and the global charity fraud and the emails and the exoneration before investigation and the framing, the counterintelligence operation, the phony document written in part by the Justice Department and the FBI paid Steele, and the Justice Department in part wrote it, Bruce Orr. It was passed off as opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton, that they used this phony document to fraudulently apply for warrants. That is likely, all that stuff is going to be declassified soon. That's going to put the kibosh on this whole phony frame job investigation on the president, where they had to make it up. They have to make it up, folks. And this is even the Chuck Todd, who's on Meet the Press. He's not the press. He's a former Democratic operative. Chuck Todd, we have to fight back. You have to fight back. Excuse me? You have to report the news, Mr. Journalist. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, report the news. This idea, Bob Woodward also, anonymous sources. I mean, I guess his fame has finally run out. His free coffee and his free stuff with Watergate has finally run out. Now he's, and I wonder if they have something on him, to do this kind of reporting with, they're all anonymous sources. Wow, you know what kind of a story I could have if I could just put together anonymous sources? I worked at ABC and at CNN. I could never use a single anonymous source. I couldn't imagine walking into my boss's office, and because I had to do a bunch of research before I did anything. We'd just go out and fumble around and record stuff and then come back and put it together. I had to have it laid out. completely laid out ahead of time with a premise and who the victims were and what the documents we had were, how we could make our case, and could this pass legal. This is before we shot an inch of tape, before we shot a nanosecond of video. I can't imagine walking into my boss's office and say, hey, listen, I'm going to trash the president of, and let's not say President Trump, the president of Amazon, the president of Netflix, the president of GE, the president of General Motors, the president of Ford, and I'm going to say dreadful things, and you can't know who my source is. I don't have any documents. I don't have any proof. I don't have any recordings. I don't have anything, but I'm going to say dreadful things about what they're doing, what their companies are doing. They'd look at me like I was nuts. I mean, they would, what? They may not even let me be a reporter after that. If they have, my judgment is that bad, I had to have a full background check before I could get on at CNN and before that ABC. I mean, they couldn't check everything I did in the field. I had to be a choir boy. I had to be credit worthy. I couldn't have any felonies, bankruptcies. It had to be sterling, and it was. That's outrageous. A single source. I could never use, if I had a single source, anonymous, give me a tip, I could chase down the story. I better have two more sources that'll go on record. Two more sources. I had a source, I've said this before on the air and other people's air. I wanted to do a story about 9/11. Now we're hearing, and we've been hearing for the past few years, all these people got cancer. At the time, I had come back from out of town, drove in from across the country, I think it was Colorado Springs, drove in, listened to all this, and said, oh my gosh, that's a Superfund site. And I thought they were going to send me down to 9/11 in Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan. I thought they were going to send me down there, so I was running around getting respirators with metal containers that were good down to 5 microns. And I had a source at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. He was an MD, the head of occupational hazards. His mentor figured out that asbestos would give you cancer. And he said, oh man, that's a Superfund site. Anything 20 blocks in New York is 1 mile. Anything within 20 blocks, they ought to have a full hazmat suit on and a respirator. At the very least, they should have a respirator on. Very few people did. They had these little masks on. I said, what about this little mask? You might as well have a sock on your face, he says. I said, well, you go on. Now, I'm getting ready to do the story. I'm pitching this to my bosses. So you'll go on record and say, I'm going to come and put a camera in front of you. You're going to say this. Yes. Oh, yes, I will. I'm not putting words in your mouth. This is what you're going to say, that you need a full respirator. Yes. Nobody knew that. You know how many people, after that happened in the first 24 hours, you know how many people ended up at the hospital down there in Lower Manhattan? I think it was St. Francis. I think it's that. Anyway, the hospital down in Lower Manhattan, 11. You either died or you got out. So the people who were at risk were the first responders. They wouldn't let me do that story at ABC, and I had it laid out. Now, fast forward to today. What passes it as journalism? What's not journalism? What Woodward is doing is propaganda and character assassination of the president, and he's doing it because they want you to think that the president's unstable, and that when indictments start coming, and they are going to start coming after they wrap up Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh at the to solidify a 5-4 decision. Of constitutionalists on the Supreme Court, they're going to say that, well, he's crazy, or he's Stalin, or whatever. But the op-ed piece was to bring up the 25th Amendment, which allowed you to remove a sitting president if he couldn't continue. And here we have Elizabeth Warren, Liawatha, Elizabeth Warren, time to use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office, which is the idea they want to kind of put out there and trial balloon out to the public. He's a senator from Massachusetts, and it's not going to work out. I mean, Mattis and Kelly and Trump's former lawyer all say, hey, we didn't say any of that stuff, for Woodward's new book. I mean, Woodward, you better get your sources to come out. You better get your sources to come out, because they're all top guys that you're quoting that said Trump was an idiot and things like that are saying, we didn't say that. Can you imagine that? You think that the top guy, the chief of staff, which is arguably the second or third, the third most powerful person in government because he controls the president's agenda, the secretary of his calendar, the Secretary of Defense, Mattis, and Trump's top lawyer, who has attorney-client privilege, who doesn't, the president's attorney would be running their mouth off to say how kind of stupid their boss or their client is and how much kind of an idiot is and how unstable it didn't happen. These guys say it didn't happen. This is panic. This is throwing anything out there. Now we're back to the 25th Amendment now. We're back to the 25th Amendment. Unbelievable. And you got people, the journalists are now, we're going to fight back. Chuck Todd, we're going to fight back. You're supposed to report the news. It's not journalism, folks. Not in any way, shape, or form, it is not journalism. I had one journalist on TV who was talking about how, I don't really like anonymous sources. You don't really like anonymous sources? Well, if you're a journalist, you don't use them, period, the end. You don't. You better have somebody, you better have a profound national security issue, or a profound issue that the public needs to see. The Pentagon Papers was such, it blew the whistle on what the Vietnam War was about. That the public needed to see that. But Donald Trump, and they're trying to use character assassination and anonymous sources, if they really believe he's off the rails, they should come out and talk about it for real. They should come out and own their words. That you could take a look at their motivation, you could take a look at who they are, what they did, what their record is, but no. Same thing with Woodward. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is all, I think, a panic play to paint the president unstable because they have to make up something, because the indictments are going to roll, their little world is coming to an end. They're not going to be able to do the same voter fraud that they tried the last time, which is why I think the polls were way off. They knew they were off. But if Hillary did win by a big margin, the polls have to match by what she won. And, well, guess what? She didn't win because they put the kibosh on some of the voter fraud. And more people turned out than they thought were going to turn out. And I think they're desperate. There's 25 people running, 25 Democrat senators that are up for re-election. 25. There's 100 in the Senate. I think it's 8 or 9, Republicans. There's no way that the Democrats are going to hold on to all 25 seats. And I say 25, there's a couple of independents, but they're Democrats. Bernie Sanders is a Democrat, a socialist Democrat, a national socialist, frankly, in my humble opinion. But these people, there's no way they're going to hold on to the Senate. No way they're going to hold on to all 25 seats, and they're not going to take over the Senate. No way. This blue wave is going to be a blue. And the House is, I don't understand where the blue wave's coming from. And I think they know that. I think their internal polls are showing them that we're not doing so good. This is not a blue wave, and they're panicking. They're panicking because Trump is going to keep going forward. The Manafort investigation is going to come to a big fizzle out, and he did accept written questions. He won't be able to do a perjury trap. It's going to come to an end. They're already preparing that it was illegitimate, and it was. They committed fraud, a frame job to get Mueller empowered and paneled. I mean, that's not a story for Bob Woodward, Mr. Watergate. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. But I think the word is panic. Panic in the deep state. Panic with the New World Order Luciferians, panic with the Democrats. And listen, the deep state, they're panicking because never have they had somebody like Donald Trump and backed by the U.S. military and the military intelligence services. That's an opponent they have never met with. I mean, usually the deep state just destroys you. Just relax. Yawn. You're destroyed. That's not happening here. That's not happening. And again, I'm going to say it again. They have to make it up. They're making it up because they don't have anything. And when the indictments start rolling, and when that does happen, they're going to say either Trump's, a Stalinist, or he's crazy. He's crazy. He's off the rails. He's unhinged, which is a lie. He's not a Stalinist, and he's not unhinged. But that's all they got, folks, which to me is a Hail Mary pass, a panicked situation. One of the things that isn't going to be good for Donald Trump is we have full employment. That usually indicates that we're at the top, that there's no place to go but down. Manarino sent me this. He was saying, "Hey man, I just want to send you this. This is Forbes magazine, and you don't have to quote me, but he sent me this. But yeah, he says, but I agree with it." And it's Forbes magazine. Unfortunately, this unusual market strength is not evidence of a strong organic economy, but an extremely unhealthy, artificial bubble economy that will end in a crisis that will be even worse than we experienced in 2008. Manarino also set me up last week and said, did you see PNC Paribas, the big bank, caught rigging LIBOR? Caught rigging LIBOR. I think they're getting fined $90 million. But no criminal charge is going to be filed. No criminal charges. It used to be that the central banks could get together and they could intervene and they could use a little fraud and they could, print some money, buy some bonds. They could step on the gas a little bit, keep the economy, rolling. They've been doing this for 10 years. Now they're recycling the fraud cases. Now they're going to get another bank to suppress LIBOR, which is London Interbank Offered Rate interest rates, because they can't have them go up just a little. They can't have them go up. The debt is exploding, but interest rates are even. The debt is exploding, but gold and silver are around, 14 and change and around $1,200. The debt is exploding, but everything's fine. And they're having to employ pretty dreadful measures like fraud to go along with the bond buying and the intervention and the money printing and everything else. Oh, and we have to have fraud to make this all work. And I had Rob Kirby on this past week, and he was telling me about the early Sunday, I think it was the early Sunday release, and telling me about, he says, the elephant in the room is the additional 21 trillions. That's, of course, Mark Skidmore wrote me and said, they told me it's a national security issue. I can no longer access any of that data that we compile, the 21 missing trillion that is on top of the 21 trillion that we already owe in the current federal deficit. Whew, what could go wrong? We're living in a make-believe world, folks. We're living in a world where there's no monetary laws, that all the numbers are rigged, the unemployment, the inflation, the monetary supply, how much debt we owe, interest rates, futures are manipulated, gold's manipulated, silver's manipulated, commodities are manipulated, everything's manipulated, but it's okay. Go back to sleep, it's fine, we're good. We're living in a make-believe world, folks. We are living in a make-believe world. Now listen, I've been saying this for a while, and the reason why I'm saying this about be prepared, get ready and stay ready is what I like to tell people. Get ready and stay ready. And I know it's daunting, and nothing's happened. But they have employed massive amounts of collusion by central banks. Nomi Prinz just got her third bestseller book. The book's called Collusion. I brought this up before. She proves that. That's how they did it. She proves it with, 100 and something pages of footnotes and a best-selling book, Nomi Prinz. So they did things that have never been done before. We have never been here before monetary policy-wise. We have never been here before debt-wise. We have never been here as a world community with the amount of fraud in the statistics. Never been here. I mean, one of the statistics is accurate is we grew the global debt, which we had a debt problem last time it crashed, from about 160 to 70 trillion dollars to pretty close to 250 trillion. So we tacked on another 70 or 80 trillion dollars in the last 10 years since the last blow up. I want to talk to you about this, the drought monitor. Here I'm in a farm in Missouri. I didn't tell you, that's why I'm having this, location. This is the Four Corners area right here. Terrible drought right here. Terrible drought. It was worse than this. This is September. We've had some rain. It was really dried in Missouri. I'm coming here from a farm in Missouri, and the crops now out east. Wow, out east has been fabulous all year. They've been getting plenty of crops, plenty of rain. Places up in Iowa. There's no drought in Iowa. No drought in Illinois to speak of. Missouri and parts of Missouri and out west. But here, this area right here, just been hammered. But it was very, what can I say, uneven. in great swaths of the area. It looks better. The map looks better now, but in July the map was a lot more red, a lot more pink, a lot more drought. And so, some of the crops, and this is just from the farm here. Some of the crops, this is beans, and this is the pods of the beans right here. This is not bad, not great, but not bad. You can see how tall the thing is. If I stood it down here, it comes up to, while I'm sitting in a chair, it comes up to my nose. So it looks pretty good. I mean, this is going to end up. This got saved by the most recent rains. Okay. This crop goes in later. And so this crop going to do okay. It's going to make something. Not bad. But then you have corn, and some of the corn, oh my gosh, some of the corn's 8, 9, 10 feet. They hit it right. They put it in. It rained. They got rain when they needed, and the dry spots that we had, the corn was already strong enough. But the other people got it in wrong. This is another from our. This is it. So I got a field of this, where it comes up, 3, 4, 5 feet max. Good healthy corn is 7, 8 feet tall, sometimes 9, 10 feet tall. And they'll have, at least two, sometimes 3 ears to a stalk. You got a corn crop when you have 3. This is this right here. Here's an ear, okay? Just open this up live. I just know there's not much there. So here's an ear right here. There you go. That's what this produced. A whole field of this. Oh, here's an ear. Okay. Here, let's just get that away. Here's an ear, too. Okay. That's it. This. They're usually like that. And they're usually like that. Okay? Here's a whole field of this. 1 ear. 1 pretty paltry ear. A lot of crops had this happen this year. It was very uneven. I mean, 5 miles away, they'd get 3 inches of rain. Here, we get nothing. Very, very uneven, at least in this area, but I don't think it's going to be a catastrophic event. Out east, the crops were just bumper, massive, tall beans, chest high, corn, sky high, out east in many states. Lots of goods. Other people around here have been combining and just going to feed it as silage. So very uneven this year, but not a disaster. There'll be some insurance paid for some of the corn. Got 3 or 4 bushels to the acre when they get 150 or 180 or 200. I mean, that just about a wipeout. I mean, if they count the gas in the combine to get the 3 or 4 bushels, they went backwards. They had negative for wear and tear on the combine and diesel fuel. But anyway, listen, overall, what we're seeing is just panic. Panic in the mainstream media. They're talking about fighting back. No journals would say that. No journals would say that. I would never talk about fighting somebody. I used to, in my office, I would say, people, we're going to get so-and-so. No, we're not going to get anybody. They're going to get themselves. We're going to judge that to be something that people need to see, and we're not getting anybody. I mean, we always try to put people in their best light. ABC, for example. I would go do interviews, okay? And every single interview, because I had a higher level of, I was an investigative reporter, and I had a higher level, I would say something, that could get the company sued. But if I was right, we wouldn't get sued and they'd defend me. That's back in the good old days when they actually had investigative reporters. But I would do an interview, and then every single interview, just so you know this, would be sent out to a transcription service, and they would transcribe the entire interview. Now, we might only use 15, 20, 30 seconds of a sound bite, in a 3 or 4 or 5 minute story. But every single person in the story would have their transcribed interview. And so the lawyers would look at your script when you were finished, and they'd go to the interview, and then they'd look it up in the transcription to make sure you didn't misrepresent it, to make sure you got it correctly, and then they would okay your script. I mean, that's how detailed it got. It was unbelievably detailed. And I always had to put people in their best light. That was one of the things you used to say at ABC, and there's the same thing at CNN. We couldn't get people. We had to get the facts correct. And if that got them, then that's too bad. But so there's this preacher. He was out west, and we went on this preacher. This is a true story, folks. And he agreed to interview with me. He had been ripping people off. It had him cold busted. Had him, and I want to talk. I want to tell my side. Okay, we'll fly out there. We'll get you. We'll spend the money. We'll come out there. Set up a crew. Set him down. Set that first right out of the get go. Boom. He says, "Well, yeah, I ripped him off. I ripped people off. I kind of robbed him." He keeps talking. I keep interviewing him. Towards the end of the interview's not terribly long, 15, 20 minutes. And it didn't get it didn't get tough. It didn't get, testy. It didn't get mean. And at the end, towards the end of the interview, he says, "Well, I ripped him off, but I didn't mean to. Wasn't my intent." Guess which soundbite ABC made us use when we were doing an investigation and exposure of this guy? The first one where he said, "Yeah, I ripped him off." That's the one we put in there originally. They made us use the second one, and they said, you have to put him in his best light. You can't just trash him. Okay? We still did the story, and the guy had to pay back a ton of money. He went out of business, whatever. Do you think that the mainstream media is putting Donald Trump, the President of the United States, in the best light? Do you think that? The answer is no. They're committing acts of propaganda. That's what they're doing. That's all there's to it. It's not journalism, folks. Don't be freaked out by their panic. I laughed it off, actually. I thought, oh my gosh, they're panicking. One last thing. Dave Janda is going to be the early Sunday release. He's going to have lots to say about this, lots to say about what's coming down. I think they have to set Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court first, so they have a 5-4 decision. I think I said that earlier. Before it happens, I think he said that the big indictments would come out after the primaries. That's, I think, next Tuesday is the last primary thing. Dave Janda of DaveJanda.com, Operation Freedom, he'll be the guest on the early Sunday release. He never disappoints. For that, I just want to tell you, listen, don't be fearful. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. And I mean this. Don't be fearful. Don't let fear shake your faith. Don't let fear make you cower. Don't let fear paralyze you. That's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to think. So fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit firmly in control. Thanks for supporting USAWatchdog.com.